finest, Samuel Amick of The Athletic. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, gentlemen, with your fancy new video setup here.
Yeah, it sucks.
Nice to be with you.
I hate it, dude. We still haven't figured it out. It's just the worst. But it's getting
like
better.
I'm in a snow globe.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, there we go. Are you on your phone?
I'm on the iPad. I was admittedly squeezing in an 11th hour coffee brew before we got on the air. I got to center myself here. But yes.
Let me ask you this, and please center yourself off air. When you're doing stuff like that, do you have an actual holder for your iPad/phone, or are you balancing against something?
Like in this moment?
Like right now or normally, do you actually have a little holder you can put it on to stand it up? This or your phone, or
I have a cover that has the little leg in the back that stands it up. Right now, it's physically placed inside of my laptop.
But when you do the cover thing, it's at an angle, right? Isn't it at an angle a little bit when you do the cover thing, or does it stand straight up?
Yeah, no, it is. It's an angle.
I'm just saying.
Where are we going here, buddy?
I don't know. I'm thinking the same thing, Sam.
Here's where we're going, because Sam is awful nice, and he comes on with us, and he does it out of the goodness of his heart. And I look for different ways to bonus our friends for their kindness. So I think I know what I'm getting Sam for an early Christmas present.
That's exciting.
Something you could take on the road with him. Something very, very convenient, and and budget friendly, and something we can all be happy to furnish. And that would be a bag of licorice. Sam, you wrote an article today. Well, you probably wrote it yesterday, let's be honest. But you came out with an article today, The Athletic.
I finished it today. It was late.
Did you? Okay. It's a fine article indeed, and we retweeted it here. And I especially like the headline: "Adding Russell Westbrook to a mismatched Sacramento Kings squad? Why not?" And that jives with is it jives or jibes? Jives with a
jives.
V. With a V?
Yeah.
Okay. Jives with what I was saying yesterday. You may remember Tin Cup Renee Russo at the end when she just went crazy and said, "Screw it, just go for it, Ray," and or Roy, and when he was hitting all the balls into the water. And that's really where I think myself and a lot of Kings fans are right now. We're just like, hey, you know what, Russell Westbrook? Just do it. Screw it. Who cares? But this has been a very poorly kept secret all summer long. My first question for you after that long and pointless lead up is, why did it take so long?
Man, all the lead up for a question that I don't have the answer to, because the Kings had framed it for months in a way that, and I'd said on our visits that if you saw them get rid of a guard without getting one in return, then get ready to welcome Russell Westbrook. I didn't sit there and track the numbers game on the roster, but they're at 15 now, and they didn't need to do anything like that. And so, actually, you know what? Now here, I'm gonna come up strong on the back end. I think I do know the answer.
Here we go.
It might have happened regardless, but training camp confirmed their concerns about backup point guard.
Yep.
They, whether it was. They just, Malik Monk's not, he can do the job, but they'd rather he's not the guy. Devin Carter, obviously, it really just looks like he's not in a great place with the program. The camp, and you go on down the list from there, nobody jumped out at camp. There was some positive reviews. Nick Clifford is a very good passer, but you're not going to make him your backup point guard. So I think when you have all these vets, like, believe in them or not, they just kind of looked at it and said, if we're going to go to the 10-yard line with this approach, why would we leave this gaping hole at the backup point guard spot and not take it all the way to the end zone?
What's interesting to me, Sam, about Russell Westbrook is, to me, the addition of the Kings doing this kind of lines up to what you said. It's more of a kind of a need and a necessity for this squad that doesn't have the appearance of a team that has a bright season ahead of them, at least as of now. Whereas there are other teams that have probably some championship aspirations, including the one he was just on, that haven't looked to sign him, at least from the outside. Do you have a good answer as to why there wasn't maybe the biggest market for a guy like Russ?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Jay, it was tricky to write this thing because I've been part of stories where we reported on some of the pretty challenging dynamics between Russ and those previous teams that you mentioned. If we could hit the rewind button and go back to the Lakers experience, that was pretty uncomfortable at the end. LeBron and AD, advocated for him on the front end, and really, this is Kings related. They kind of got that Buddy Hield deal off the tracks back in the day, and wanted the Russell Westbrook trade. And then by the end of it, the headlines were that he was toxic, and he certainly did not appreciate that. I'm sure doesn't agree. But the Lakers thing ended poorly. The Clippers thing didn't end all that well. The Nuggets one, and this is where I kind of the headspace I was in last night trying to analyze it was tricky because I was just with the Nuggets in San Diego, and I had conversations with them about Russ. And what struck me, and I think I should definitely share out of fairness to him, is that even with them choosing not to bring him back, and even with the stuff that definitely happened, I believe that his the way that he moved with them, definitely played a part in Michael Malone getting fired because some of the other vets on the team did not understand why he was to some degree getting MVP treatment with kind of off the court stuff when he was the new guy on the squad. And I know this is a long answer, but all that being said, pretty high-ranking Nuggets people just essentially shook their heads and said it's crazy that he's not in the league. A lot of the stuff that went on is like, it's the NBA. Stuff happens behind the scenes, and he can still play. And, if you just talk about the top 450 players on the planet, I don't know where he ranks, but, some pretty smart basketball folks think he's absolutely in that group and probably not even really close to the bottom. So this one for him, I think, could be a better fit because you don't have the pressure that comes with title contention and the expectations. And that's partly what I was trying to write. Like, whatever, like, see how it goes. They do kind of need him. And this is not a real meaningful era for the Kings anyway, if we're being honest, in terms of this roster and the direction that they're going right now.
So I guess it falls on to Russ and how he chooses to take this. There's probably no doubt that this is his Jerry Rice on the Seahawks or Broncos phase of his career. He's in an NBA outpost. He probably knows there's zero chance at making the playoffs, but it's better than China. Do we think he's going to, is the question, is he going to accept being a backup? It's one thing to be a backup on a championship contending team like Denver. Is he going to accept being a backup on a team that has, quite frankly, almost zero chance of making the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Dennis Schroeder, if you're Dennis, you're going, all right, at least I created some good momentum for myself in the summer with his Eurobasket MVP and the way that he played. But that's always going to be a question. I mean, Russ is definitely an alpha. I could see him trying to push for the starting role. And honestly, like, if it's the Dennis Schroeder who struggles to fit in like he did with the Warriors, then maybe that happens. And I think the other person that is going to be, front and center here is Doug Christie, where if you're Doug, it's a blessing and a curse because you have your first full-time crack at the head coaching job and you want to make an impact. And so you would presumably like as many impact players as possible. But, man, he's just surrounded by just big-time vets with big-time resumes, but with an outlook that, I mean, my goodness, I know it's just preseason, but last night was not pretty. That where, managing that room, I think could be really challenging. And again, I just said casually a moment ago that Russell Westbrook, I think, had an impact on the Michael Malone situation. That's a championship coach who had been doing it for a long time. So that's a challenge, but we'll see where it goes.
Sam, it's already a guard-heavy roster that, and a starter, an important starter in Keegan Murray is going to be out for the beginning of the season. It feels like there are moves to be made. I think everybody sees that. Does this fast-track that at all for the Kings as far as, one, Keegan's injury, and number two, just the amount of guards they now have on this roster?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I can't get a beat on, who might be kind of first to go, what they might be looking at. You know, I noted in the story that, you know, I don't think I'm off on this. Like, I feel like there have been significantly more scouts at their preseason games this year than there were in years past. And you know, chatted with a few of them about how certainly part of that is that when you have a team that the rest of the league thinks is going to be active on the trade market, then you need to fill your notebook with your own observations about each of their players so that you can go back to your opposing team and tell them if you think, you know, we should pursue this guy and that guy or not pursue certain people. So I feel confident saying they're going to be discussed a lot as, you know, a team that gets looked at and that looks to make moves. And yeah, they're super guard heavy, but you know, we'll see where it goes. I think the thing coming, I know it's, you know, fresh and literally hours ago with that game. The thing that I walked away last night thinking was like, man, like all these proud vets, and I say it again, like all these incredible resumes. But if it's ugly, I almost would be disappointed for everybody involved because it's, you know, you got all these guys that are just trying to continue their careers, but it did look like it could potentially not be real pretty last night.
Yeah, Sam Amick joining us. That's kind of what we're preparing for. Come with me, Sam. Let's pontificate for a moment. Let's go up to 50,000 feet and look at the chessboard. You mentioned something in your article I had not seen before, talking about Doug Christie and his contract. He said, per league sources, the deal he signed in the offseason includes 2 guaranteed seasons and a team option for a third. He'll earn approximately $2 million annually in his first 2 seasons, with a significant uptick in salary for the third season should the option be picked up. So a couple things there. I'm looking at coaching salaries. Says the median salary for an NBA head coach is about $7 million. You have Steve Kerr at 17.5 on the top end, with guys like Eric Spoelstra in the 11 range. So to say that Doug Christie was a bargain as far as coaches go is probably an understatement. But also, when you look at the 2 years with the third as an option, is it right to look at this, Sam? And I'm looking at their payroll. It's what we've been talking about recently. They're probably screwed. They're definitely screwed this year. They're probably screwed next year. And then the year after, a lot of these contracts come off the books with the exception of Sabonis. It looks to me like this may very well just be, hey, look, worst case scenario, if Doug's not that great, we're not spending a ton of money, and these 2 seasons don't really matter. And if he is good, we'll renew him. But also we can maybe flip the script and recycle everything completely. It seems like they're going for a 2-year project here.
I think certainly at minimum keeping the 2-year project, you know, door open and available, depending on how things go. I mean, I think you're reading that correctly. You know, I think 2 things can be true. You know, Doug can be in a place where he's trying to, I mean, it's a make good contract. You know what I mean? Like, we can just kind of say what it is.
Sure.
I mean, you know, Doug knows, I think, that he's probably not getting, as of last season, another one of the head coaching vacancies that was available. It's only going to happen in Sacramento. And so it was a win-win for both sides in that regard, because when Scott Perry came to town, and this process continues right now, is, you know, he had this challenge of trying to evaluate everybody from Doug on down. And Keegan Murray is in a similar vein, where it was like, all right, do I want to pay certain people without having had the personal experience of seeing what I think of them from up close? Now with Keegan, you know, he got put into a situation where it was like, do you really want this young guy to be in his feelings a little bit during the course of this year if you don't do the extension? So they found a number there that I think honestly is probably going to age fine. But it was a similar thing. You wanted to know more about Keegan, and is he a guy that we want to be part of the program for the long term? So they made that commitment. With Doug, yeah, this gives him a couple of years to see if he can be a head coach. And, you know, and then from there you figure it out. I mean, it's, you know, I do think the structure of the deal and the fact that, you know, like you said, it's certainly on the bottom, if not the bottom of salary is definitely telling.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that, Sam, on the Keegan part, because the entire roster seems, whether it's unbalanced or probably better yet, uncertain as to any kind of future with this team. But the one guy they have committed to now, that at least Scott Perry has, is Keegan. What was your read on kind of that commitment to him at this point and kind of where he is and where really they are as a team?
They committed. If you compartmentalize the contract discussions, they decided some time ago that they were in the Keegan Murray business, and they were very comfortable. The way it was put to me before the deal got done was that, listen, even if we can't find the number and the deal doesn't get done, we're going to be ecstatic, having to overpay next summer if he has a great year. But regardless, that they had decided they did not want to let him go, and that makes a ton of sense, obviously, because you're talking about a roster that just doesn't have a lot of forward-facing or looking talent in terms of young prospects. It's on the older side for sure. So they started the negotiations in the neighborhood of Jabari Smith's deal, which I think was 5 years for $122 million. That was like the discussion for really months was, does he deserve more than that? Is he going to become a number one or number two option eventually? Is he a high-level role player? And that's where his last 3 seasons have been a little puzzling, because we've seen flashes at times, if you go back to the Light the Beam days, where you thought he was, if not that guy, like maybe the guy next to the guy, with the way he could shoot that thing and play on the offensive end. Mike Brown needed him to be a defender. And that is, even beyond Keegan, I think that's where the league is so interesting from an economic standpoint, is that, defenders just do not get paid the same as offensive players. And so when a coach, but defense does still win championships. So when a coach, kind of forces a player to become that type of guy, and then you get into your contract situation, I don't blame a guy like Keegan for saying, well, hold on a minute. Like, you guys asked me to do this, and that took away from my offense, and why should I lose money because of it? So it was that kind of a conversation.
As far as what the Kings are looking to do, I think we've talked about this ad nauseum in the past. Our assumption is if Scott Perry had his way, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and perhaps others, but certainly those two would be wearing different uniforms at some point this season or next season. Has anything changed, to your knowledge, with Zach LaVine's market? And let me back that up, because I stumbled onto this a couple of days ago, Sam, and this is from a Bulls article talking about the LaVine market when he was with the Bulls. No other player of his caliber has been subject to this type of trade market in recent memory. Barren and non-existent have been terms used, with a growing consensus suggesting the Bulls would not only not get positive value for him, but would need to actually attach assets in order to trade him. One expert said no team would take his contract, even if the Bulls, by the way, a lottery team, attached a first-round pick. Have you had any indication, or do you think that's going to change anytime soon for Zach, or is he still a top 5 toxic contract in the league?
Yeah, I think the framing at the back end of your latest soliloquy is accurate.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, listen, we're a couple preseason games in. This is where I'm going to take it back to Doug Christie for a minute. If Doug can somehow wave this magic wand and get this group of offense first veterans to defend and even pick up full court at times in the way that he has talked about in the preseason, and to show the market and show the league that Zach LaVine is going to add things to his game at this late stage. He's 30. He's not one of the old guys, but he's been around. Then maybe by the deadline, and if he's putting up good numbers and looking like a winning player, that you might have some market. But the market is still really tough. His number is still really big. Not to pull the scab off this old wound, but it's just it's wild and kind of fitting how the idea that he's playing for a team that, as you guys know, has a GM who, before he got this job, had highlighted some of the concerns, in Scott's media capacity, had highlighted some of the concerns about Zach's game publicly that so many people around the league had said privately. So it's on Zach to show that he could be part of something that's, that it would be kind of transferable to another winning team or a winning team. But yeah, I think it's a tough market for sure.
Sam, I know you were working on all sorts of things last night, but did you hear any further update at all on Sabonis, how he left that game with a hamstring injury?
I did not.
Okay.
Nothing there. I mean, that's, hammy is never good. And we'll see if we get an update soon. But between that, I mean, my goodness, with the Keegan injury having happened already, I mean, they might be in a hole here before they even get started.
Well, let's end on that then, because I said it earlier, and I'm curious how you feel. You have as good a finger on the pulse as anybody in the world when it comes to this franchise. If, God forbid, but if Sabonis misses significant time along with Keegan, is there a world in which anyone in the franchise that may not already be convinced this is a throwaway year may come around at some point, or is that just an impossibility?
Sure. No,
Okay.
I mean, I do think that's, that is the value of honestly having Scott leading the front office, is that he's supposed to be clear-eyed, and I think he is, about, what they need to be doing for the long term. They've kind of asked for patience quietly, even with the media, when it comes to they're towing this line between here's why we think this current group could surprise people, and also, naturally acknowledging that they need to figure out what the roster looks like going forward. So, I mean, I think, that's where Scott's relationship with Vivek could come into play, and we'll see if it happens.
Sam Amick of The Athletic. Want to remind you to read his article today. It's a very good article, which I'm not implying the rest of his articles aren't. But
yes, you are.
No,
you really are.
Well, you had that soliloquy thing earlier, so let's calm down.
Easy there, Skinny Dave.
Thank you. Hey, wow. Yeah. Come a long way from Cushy Poker Player Bill right there.
How about that?
Indeed. That was the subtext. I know we're going to jump, but since this is one of those Dower King segments that the organization always loves. I will say, maybe last night was an outlier, because my God, the Clippers look really good.
Yeah.
That was the other takeaway. I know it's not really interesting to the Kings audience, but I walked out of there going, oh goodness, I've been digging through files of paperwork about aspiration and Kawhi Leonard and Steve Ballmer and focusing on the controversy around the Clippers. And I know we probably have to go, but I did really enjoy last night getting a chance to get in their locker room and talk to some players. And I'm telling you, and to find out that controversy is not even remotely a distraction to the guys in there. And they not that they find it funny, but they find it funny that people think that they're spending any time, letting it take away from what they're trying to do. And they are deep and they are loaded. And as James Harden told me on the way out when I said hello to him, he said, we don't even have Bradley Beal and Bogey yet, Bogdanovich. I mean, when you look at that roster, there's really not anything they don't have.
Well, you had the Beam team a few years ago. Now, last night, you had the Scheme team coming in, and they were playing against the Meme team. So there you go. You can use that, Sam. You can use that in your articles. That's Sam Amick of The Athletic. Make sure to read him and, of course, his colleagues, and subscribe and save, unless you're me, on many, many, many wonderful forms of journalism. Samuel, thank you, friend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Be good.
Take care. That's Sam Amick. We're way late for a break. 4 Down Territory coming up next.
The San Francisco